You gotta accentuate, oh, the positive, eliminate the negative, and latch on to the affirmative. Don't mess with Mr. In Between. No, don't you mess with Mr. In Between. Yes, you gotta spread joy up to the maximum and bring gloom down to the minimum, and have faith or pandemonium's liable to walk up on the scene. Oh, tell us straight, my last remark, Jonah in the whale, Noah in the ark. What did they do just when everything looked so dark? Man, they said we better accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative, and latch on to the affirmative. Don't you mess with Mr. In Between. Oh, you know you gotta spread joy up to the maximum and bring gloom down to the minimum, and have faith or pandemonium's liable to walk up on the scene. Oh, don't you mess with Mr. In Between.
Thank you, Kelly Hans. Is that my introduction? Okay. Something new, I guess. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Unity Temple in the Plaza, a place where diversity is praised and peace is harmony, the rewards. I've been gone for 2 Sundays, but last Sunday I tuned into the service, anxious to see what it looks like on the stream. And I fell off my chair when Cassie Bender came out to do the announcements. She'd never done that before, and I thought she did a marvelous job. And the speaker was another young'un, and he came out and did a good job. And I just feel so thankful for that, that when I'm gone, there are people that do outstanding things to replace me. Not permanently, of course, but just for a weekend or two. I ran across this book about a month ago, and it's about ADD, ADHD. And I had never known much about the subject, and I started to read the book, and I discovered within the book, there's a lot of things in here that kind of identify with my characteristics about me. And then I came to the conclusion that everybody has a certain degree, no matter how small it might be, of ADD and ADHD. It's written by a guy named Thomas W. Scott. He's a psychotherapist here in the Plaza. And he's actually here today, and he's going to do a book signing afterwards. Whether you just want to browse through the book, if you want to buy the book, he'll be there to sign it. And I'm going to have him stand up and just tell us in 60 seconds why you should buy this book.
Well, because all the proceeds are going to the temple. That would be the first thing. But second of all, I've, as he said, been a therapist for 35 years in Kansas City, and I've seen a lot of suffering, seen a lot of good stuff, but I've seen a lot of people with kids and adults for that matter do a lot of wrong things for the right reasons. And there was a whole stretch of time, and I'm certainly not against medication, but a whole stretch of time where everyone decided to put a saddle on a pill and ride it to happiness and competency and well-being. And it really didn't help a lot of kids for that matter. It took away their instinctual data, though they could tether a state to a capital, which I think in the whole long run really makes no difference. But really what's most important to me is how these kids and adults or kids in adult clothing, how they feel about themselves privately, because that'll be your roadmap through life. And I can't take people places I've never been. And being ADHD myself, I did see a lot of people do a lot of wrong things for the right reasons. Like maybe the second grade teacher put tape over my mouth and sat me in front of the class would have made some money today, but back then that's when the teachers or parents were afraid of teachers, not teachers now afraid of parents. But really, I've always said I don't want to be a fact finder or a pill dispenser. I want to be a feeling releaser. And I think a lot of things that have been ignored over the years is the emotional world of kids and adults. We get up in our brain and we want to change our thinking, do a lot of cognitive work that's great, and we want to change behavior, and that's great. But for the most part, if you just stick with that and don't do the emotional work or the emotional renovation, I think a lot of that's like wallpapering in a steam room. You just put it on, it slides off, put it on, it slides off. But Maya Angelou, her great quote was, people won't always remember what you say, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And that's been my goal for the last 30-something years, is helping them feel. So, yes, there's a book.
Thank you so much, Tom. Also, I invite you downstairs after the service today for a little bit of social time downstairs in Unity Hall, where there's some snacks and refreshments for you to engage in. We'll now begin the service with the temple chimes, the opening prayer, Geneva Price, and the call to inspiration. Please say this with me if you choose. On this day, we dedicate ourselves to peace on earth. We accept ourselves without harsh judgment and express appreciation for our individuality. We live without fear to meet the events of this day with confidence. We accept others without prejudice to experience a sense of unity with all people. We honor our earthly environment and recognize a oneness with all creation, in harmony with ourselves, our lives, other people, and all of nature. We live this day with a peaceful mind, a peaceful heart, and a peaceful spirit. Thank you, God. Amen.
In silence I receive inspiration quietly. I gain insights I have never before understood. There is a light that shines through me and spreads blessings. God has an overflowing abundance of inspiration for all who come in thought and prayer.
Mighty river of gratitude flows deep and wide through my heart. Don't let the gray sky fool you. The sun is still there. And the blue was never lost. Sometimes this world can be too much. Oh, I need something peaceful in this life. You know it's never, never too late, oh no, to cleanse your heart with the water of gratitude, the healing water. Sacred water, holy water of gratitude, swimming in the river gratitude. It makes the broken beautiful. It makes the broken new. Spirit will soar when its name is spoken at the river of gratitude. Healing water, sacred water, holy water of gratitude. Spirit will soar when its name is spoken at the river of gratitude. Oh, at the river of gratitude. That's my moment to pause. Thank you for that, wherever that came from. Good morning. My abundant feeling that I have today is an overwhelming sense of gratitude. I've missed being here, and it's a beautiful, lovely thing to be back. I want to tell you a couple of stories today that feed that sense of gratitude for myself and hopefully for you as well. This morning, I was having a conversation about the giant redwoods in California, the 2,000-year-old redwoods in California's oldest state park, Big Basin. Laura McLendon, who is the conservation director for an environmental group dedicated to the protection of those beautiful redwoods and their habitat, said, and I thought this was a surprising statement, redwoods are meant to burn. The forest is not gone, she says. It will regrow. Every old growth redwood I have ever seen in Big Basin and in other parks has fire scars on them. They have been through multiple fires, possibly worse than this. Every redwood has scars on them. I was surprised by that. I didn't realize the enormity of what they had been through. We look at these 2,000-year-old majestic trees and we think, now there's an example of longevity. There's an example of beauty, of strength. They might have been through something, but there they still are. What I didn't realize, they're meant to burn. They have multiple scars on them, and they will come back. Scientists grew trees, different kinds of trees, much, much different than the redwoods, in a sealed biosphere, like a dome, where the outside elements really couldn't get to them. And they set up what they thought was a perfect environment for everything to grow. And they could not figure out why the trees eventually fell over before they matured. They never got the chance to fully mature. The scientists eventually figured out that while they had provided a perfect environment, it was lacking wind, which provided the stress to ensure that the trees grew strong enough to support themselves. Without that stress, without that wind, those trees couldn't become mature. They couldn't become tall. They couldn't grow. And eventually, they literally fell over. So I'm wondering, where is the stress in your life? I wonder, how is it that you are able to stand and continue and walk forward and go on? Well, a few years back, my band and I were in Michigan, in a beautiful little town in southwest Michigan, on a harbor. And it was the final date of about a 4-week stint out on the road. It had been a beautiful tour. And we were excited because this last date was in a lovely outdoor festival in the afternoon. And we were going to get to spend the evening in a beautiful Airbnb and celebrate my husband's birthday. My husband and I work together. We've been business partners for 27 some years. And we all thought, all right, this is going to be fun. And we pulled off of the highway. We were in a large 15-passenger van pulling a trailer, and everybody was feeling good. And from the bridge that we were about to cross down to the festival site, we could see all the people there listening to another group playing. And we were the last performers of the day. And just as we pulled out onto the bridge, bang, we were broadsided by a car. It was so fast and sudden, we didn't see it coming, and it totaled our vehicle. This is a 2-ton 15-passenger van. It hit us so hard, it bent the frame. And I thought to myself, am I dreaming? It was so quick. Because my eyes were on the crowd and the water and hearing the music, but my body was feeling this. And when we finally came to a stop, we realized just what had happened, and everything was silent. What we didn't know was all those people down there had seen it and heard it too. And the music had stopped. And here came all these vehicles from all over, and sirens that I couldn't hear yet, and lights that I couldn't quite comprehend. The good news is that physically, eventually, we were all going to be just fine. The van, not so much. And you know, if you've ever been in an experience like that, a physical experience that is sudden and shocking and traumatic, you know that your adrenaline just rises up, and you don't really feel anything other than fight or flight. I am fine. And we checked in with everybody in the van. Are you okay? Are you all right? Are you okay? And our driver, who was my husband, in the front, it was almost as if in slow motion he could see the front of the van caving in towards his legs. And he just did this. And he never got touched. We don't know how, because when we went back and looked at it, we thought, well, where did he go? How did that happen? And so we just decided on the spot. And in hindsight, I would have made a different decision. But the adrenaline told me, hey, this is the best time to play music. I need to play music. And we all felt the same way at the time. So here came a big truck from one of the promoters, and he said, first of all, is everybody okay? Things were being taken care of. First responders were doing their jobs. And every one of us in that van said, we have to play music now. We have to do it. So down we went across the bridge with a trailer hooked onto this big old truck that wasn't ours, and we came up to the stage. We didn't take time to magically metamorphosize into fancy clothes or get anything to eat. We just ran up on that stage, and the band that was there before us allowed us to use their equipment, and we said, we're so glad to be here today. And we meant it. And they knew why. And we played our hearts out. And about halfway through, I was looking at the audience, and it went like this. And I realized perhaps I was done. And I was. And so in the midst of something that felt kind of crazy making, unexpected, very stressful, good things began to happen. And for some reason, I don't know if it was what I had learned growing up or the practice that I had been espousing daily into my life, the people that I surrounded myself with, or the fact that I was allowing myself somehow to be the vessel for Spirit to say things through me. It was the strangest experience at the time. I wasn't used to it. But I kept saying how grateful I was for this or that or this little thing. It wasn't my MO at the time. I would say things out loud like, hey, I wonder how we'll get home. It'll all work out. As I was saying this, backstage, once they realized this woman needs to get off that stage right now. And I was sitting there and someone was bringing me ice water and we were getting transportation to our Airbnb. What I didn't realize was as I would make those statements and follow them up with, but I know it'll work out, things began to fall in place like I have never experienced before. You know, the unity teachings over the years that I felt like I've almost soaked in through osmosis, and I am such a work in progress. I have so much more to learn. But what I know is this, it matters what you listen to, what you read, what you look at, what you expose yourself to. Because I would say, I wonder how we'll get home. Well, I don't know, but I know it'll all work out. The man who was one of the sponsors of the festival, his company, had a car dealership in town. The town was small enough, there were no rental vehicles, and we had to get the band to Chicago where they lived, and they had a flight to catch the next day. And he said, hey, I have a car dealership. I don't usually rent out vehicles, but we've got a van, and I'd be happy to rent it to you for a couple of days so you could take your guys to the airport, because I had wondered out loud, wonder how they're going to get there. I don't know, but it's going to work out. And he went and got it, and he handed my husband the keys. And we said, okay, what do we need to sign? What do we need to do? And he said, nothing. I'll see you when you get back. So we got taken to the Airbnb, and we celebrated my husband's birthday. I had arranged for a cake to be there and candles, and we were all kind of bruised up and tired, but really happy and grateful we were okay. And hey, now we had a vehicle. I was going to take him to the airport the next morning while my husband figured out what in the world we're going to do with a total van on how we're going to get ourselves all the way from Michigan down to Lawrence, Kansas. And unlike me at that time, I said, hey, I know you'll figure it out. It'll all work out. So the next morning, I got up at 6 a.m., drove the guys a couple hours to the Chicago Midway Airport, drove a couple hours back, and I thought, you know what? By the time I get back to that Airbnb, I'm going to know what's going on. It'll all be okay. And what happened was this. I got there, and there was a truck, a different vehicle, sitting in the driveway. And there was a husband and wife team that I didn't know. Of course, I didn't know pretty much anybody there. And they were there, and they said, we were wondering if you would like that van towed to our body shop that's a couple miles down the road. And then we can start, this was on a Sunday, so nothing was going to happen for a while. And we can start getting the process rolling for your insurance people to come and inspect it. But we understood that you're probably going to have to stay a few more days. And where you're staying is not available. And the bank's not open, so you can't cash a check. And why don't you come stay at our blueberry farm? Well, I'd never been to a blueberry farm. And they said, well, and they were so dear about it. They didn't assume that we would want to. They said, well, why don't we take you and your husband out there? Let's get that van to our shop. We're going to take you out to our blueberry farm, and you can decide if you want to stay. And they said, oh, and by the way, you can stay as long as you want. Okay. We went out to the blueberry farm, and we got out there. It was 4 miles away. And it was beautiful, and they had a home that was built for workers that would come and work. But it was 2 weeks before the workers were going to be there. Blueberries weren't quite ready to pick. And so here we were in this nice home, and the one side of it was filled with windows. So we could look out in the morning, and we saw a pond and rows of blueberry bushes and trees, and it was quiet. And they just were so gentle about it. And they handed us the keys to the truck. And they said, well, you just let us know what you'd like to do. And they left when their son came to pick them up. And we said, well, can we rent this place for a few days? We don't know how long it'll be. And they said, well, we do have one condition. Could you spend a few minutes with our youngest son, they was talking to me, and give him a little beginning guitar lesson? Because I also play guitar. I play piano, but I play guitar as well. And I said, yeah, I think I could work that out. Just tell me when he wants to be there. So I'm usually a pretty positive person, but I have learned even more deeply how important and vital it is for me to not engage in a Pollyanna attitude, but an intentional gratitude perspective. Or sometimes I call it a silver lining mindset. I'm not saying things always work out this way, and I'm not saying every circumstance has a happy ending. It doesn't. We all know that. We've all lived through things that don't. But when we accept what is, instead of fighting it and saying, what are we going to do? We should have this and that should have happened. And we get worked up and really so worried until we cannot think. And instead, for whatever reason, we say, I don't know how this is going to resolve, but I know it's going to work out. And I'm going to allow myself to step into the possibility that not only is it possible for me, but it's possible for others. So instead of fighting it, we accept what's happening. What is happening right now? A very important lesson that I have learned over the years is I'm not doing this on my own. I am not alone. And sometimes the God or higher power or our source shows up as a person that owns a car dealership. Sometimes it shows up as a couple who quietly slips in and says, hey, would you like to stay at our blueberry farm? Sometimes it shows up as us doing the same for others, Spirit through us, as us, and here we go. We allow that to happen. There's a song that I've written that I've sung here before that I'll be singing later today. In a line, and it says, one heart at a time, we lift each other up. And many times in order to enable that for ourselves, we simply have to switch our thinking into gratitude. Gratitude doesn't mean I'm grateful for pain. I'm grateful for the trauma. I'm grateful for the stress. Gratitude can say, this has happened, I accept it. But I know there is always something to be grateful for. Mindset's everything. We all know the Wayne Dyer quote that says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. We can't always instantly see the positive in a situation, but what we say about it can help us get there more quickly. The other thing I've learned through many of these experiences, and I use this because for me, it was a turning point, and it was one of the most dramatic examples of how a repetitive mindset of gratitude brought blessing after blessing after blessing. And to the point where it was almost silly. My husband and I would look at each other and go, "What just happened?" And then we started saying, "Well, I wonder what's next." And just when we thought everything that positive that could possibly have happened from this situation had already happened, something else slipped in. Like, for example, yes, we were pulling a big trailer full of musical equipment, and fortunately none of that was damaged, but we had arranged to sell that trailer when we got home. We didn't know to who yet, but we knew we were going to because we had purchased a newer, safer, stronger one that was waiting for us at home. And keep in mind, we didn't have any way to pull that thing, but we had that trailer and that equipment. And so at the blueberry farm, of course, they have a huge big building with lots of equipment inside of it, and they had, the husband and wife team with their truck had pulled our trailer in there and locked it up so it would be safe for safekeeping instead of sitting out on the street where the festival had been. And the next morning when they came out with their son, who, by the way, was a charmer, we ended up giving him a couple little pedals, effects pedals for a guitar that I wasn't using anymore, and you would have thought I was Santa Claus at that point. And the man said to my husband, "What are you going to do with that trailer?" And he said, "Well, you know, when we get home, we're going to sell it." And he said, "You know, we've been looking for one just like that." And he was so dear. He goes, "I don't know if you'd consider selling that or not." Well, we said, absolutely we would consider selling it. All we'd have to do is just figure out how to get, you know, the equipment maybe in like a big U-Haul truck or something. Now, there was a U-Haul place that had one truck available that was big enough to load all our stuff in it. So we reserved that truck not knowing what day we were going to need it. So he said, "Well, if you don't mind, we would sure love to buy that, and if that would help you at all, because it would really help us. We could put our ATVs in it." And later that day, my husband and I went, "What's next?" We don't have any idea. So they bought our trailer. The last available U-Haul rental truck was available to get home. And when I felt emotional about letting go of the van, because we had over 500,000 miles on that van and a rebuilt engine, a brand new tranny, and brand new tires and full of gas, and there it went. There's all that history. When I started to feel emotional about it and had so many memories, I was reminded that that big old van also did what? It saved our lives, and it was time for a new one. I had to let it go. There's a chorus in a song, Miracle, that says, "What you survive in life is called a story. We only see the arc of it after the storm." So if we're looking at a rainbow, you're not going to see that thing show up when the tornado's coming down the road and here comes the storm and everything's blowing and crazy and you can't think and you're going underground. You're diving for shelter. But as the storm begins to pull away and you feel that gratitude for survival and you step outside and you take a deep breath and say, "Oh, thank you," that's when you can see the arc of that after the storm. Things are not always what they seem to be. Charles Fillmore said, "We must learn to let go, to give up, to make room for the things we have prayed for and desire." Well, it would have been nice to get a new vehicle. I probably would have arranged it in a different way. And yet it still happened. And that was the reality of what was happening. I can't look at or eat a blueberry to this day without a smile on my face and saying, "Thank you." Blueberries bring me joy, and it's a symbol of the beautiful, loving humanity all around us that took such good care of us. And you know, we ended up having to stay there for 4 days. It took a long time to get things resolved. And we would go into town to the cafe, and everybody knew us. And they knew that it was financially a very hard time. It was stressful to try to get home. It was stressful to rent a truck. It was stressful to, do the things that we were doing. And so first day we walked into the cafe, they said, "Hey, come on in here." They knew my name. They said, "Kelly, you guys come in and sit down." And they just brought us food, and we asked for the ticket, and they said, "Get out of here." It was the sweetest rebuff I'd ever heard. Get out of here. So we'd, tip and do what we could for folks. I had a little girl when we were heading down the street, and there was a ice cream truck, and we were all going to get some ice cream. And she said, "Would you sing me a song?" I thought, you bet I'll sing you a song. I can't even remember what it was. I broke into the song, and she took her ice cream cone and she handed it to me. I said, "All right, what next? What's coming next?" So I invite you to think of a time when you thought, what next, in a way that maybe wasn't so positive. And then I'd like you to think of a time when you were able to find that moment or drop of gratitude or a little sliver of silver lining in a situation, and think about a time when something positive came of it. I remind myself to be aware of what I say about a situation. Be aware of what I say. In the middle of that situation, if I would have said, I'm so scared, I don't know what we're going to do. This is too much, I can't handle this. Instead, I said, yeah, this is rough. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I know it's going to be okay. I just don't know the details yet, but I'm open to them. I didn't need to know the details. Matter of fact, I wasn't the one taking care of the details. Be aware of what you think about a situation, and if possible, shift your thought. This has been a very intense, stressful week for my family. There's a lot of serious health issues happening with various members of my family. Really serious stuff. But when I think about each individual, just this morning when I was sitting right up there next to Geneva, whose voice heals me every time I hear it. How about you? What am I grateful for today? One of the things is Geneva's voice. Seriously. She's such a healer, and that voice of hers is such a gift. While I was sitting there beside her, and I began to think of my family members, I began to see them surrounded and infused and filled with and healed with the loving, ever-present power of Spirit. So when I speak to them, I say, I'm with you. I love you. I'm praying for you, and I am seeing you on the other side of this, whatever that may look like. And I'm here to listen to what you have to say. But I am holding this space for you that says, all will be well. I don't know the details, but I know it'll be okay. That heals me up. That helps me be present. That helps me stand here this morning. I'm so grateful to have walked in the door. Of all days, I really needed to be here today. I really needed to sing. And I didn't know how much until I walked in the door. I thought, oh, that's why this timing worked out the way it did. So I'm not saying to deny your feelings, but just be aware of how you're reacting. Consider saying, and this is a big one for me, and it may be for you as well, consider saying yes to help that is offered. My friend Cheryl once said, don't deny me my blessing. She was trying to offer something to me, and she saw me hesitate, and she said, girl, don't you deny me my blessing. And it was a nice wake-up call that told me this blessed her as well. We can be that for each other, one heart at a time. We lift each other up. Steve Maraboli says, incredible changes happen in your life when you decide to take control of what you do have power over instead of craving control over what you don't. And lastly, I'll leave you with this. Deepak Chopra says, in the process of letting go, you will lose many things from the past, but you will find yourself. And every time I have a blueberry in my hand, I say, thank you. You've been standing in the rain for such a long time. Walking the lonesome road. Wondering if you can ever mend. Carrying such an unbearable load. When the dark clouds drifted down into your heart, and all you could do was pray. How could you know the skies would clear and love would find a way? Round rainbow is called a glory. What you survive in life is called a story. You only see the arc of it after the storm. To see the whole miracle, you've got to hold on. Workaday miracle is where you belong, where you belong. Glory, glory. Glory, hold on, hold on. The workaday miracle is where you belong, where you belong. Hold on. Hold on, love will find a way.
As we move into meditation, make yourself comfortable. And for a moment, focus on your breathing. Breathing in, think peace. As you breathe out, just imagine yourself breathing out the love that you have to give to this world. Breathing in, I am at peace. Breathing out, I give my love to this world. The path of life is not straight and narrow. It has many a winding curve. Many things on the path that can trip us up, set us back, tip us over, frustrate us. Many things that are undecided, so we're filled with anxiety and fear and worry. But if we think of all the things that we've been through up to this point in time, and all the things that we've conquered and overcome, and all the things that we have survived, we know that we have a spirit within us that is resilient, that is healing, that is smart and creative, and we will prevail. As you move into the silence, allow your mind to just become relaxed, and any worries or anxiety you might have just to be set aside. And just sit in the silence. If a thought comes to mind, that's okay. Just observe it like a cloud in the sky that's passing through. In the silence, slowly begin to bring yourself back for meditation. And do so with a smile on your face, knowing that all is well in this moment, knowing that you have the power to change that which disrupts your peace, and the power to be at peace with that which is unchangeable. We go forth today with a peaceful mind, a peaceful heart, and a peaceful spirit. And so it is.
Something within me that holdeth the reins. Something within me that banishes pain. Something within me I cannot explain. All that I know, there is something, something, something within.
One heart at a time, lift each other up. One heart at a time, we lift each other up. Oh, yes, we do. One day at a time, we lift each other up. One day at a time, we lift each other up. One step at a time, we lift each other up. Oh, one step at a time, we lift each other up. And we go up and into the dream of how we really want to live. Let's go up and into the world of our own creation. Come on, lift each other up, one vision at a time. Lift each other up, that's right. Oh, yeah. One vision at a time, we gotta lift each other up. Oh, yeah. Yes, we do. Just takes one thought at a time to lift each other up. Right here, right now, this morning. One thought at a time, we gon' lift each other up. Yeah, yeah, yes we will. And we will go up and into the dream of how we really want to live. Come on, let's go up and into the world of our own creation. Come on, lift each other up, one heart at a time. It just takes one day at a time. Do you feel it? I said one vision at a time. Do you feel better? Come on, one thought at a time. You can do it, I'll do it for you. Will you do it for me? Oh yeah, one day at a time. You know it just takes one. It takes one. We're gonna do it 3 times. It takes one. Gonna do it 4 times. One.
one.
Thank you. I thank Kelly Hunt for being here today. Geneva Price, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Yeah. And the producer of the Sunday service is Cassie Bender. She's up in the crow's nest. And Christopher Schultz on sound and lighting. And Michael, our devoted volunteer that comes every single Sunday. Love to have him here. And all of you as well. Please join me downstairs after the service for a bit of community time. And now we'll close with the prayer for protection in the peace song. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.